The intro song, Jerry Williams, started with Love Affair. I don't know why you picked that song, Hasse. Because I'm older than you, I've been around longer, and I don't really remember started with a Love Affair. But okay, maybe you can explain that when you come in later.
When I came in, it was a Love Affair.
Yeah, so shall we talk a little bit about the agenda? We can start with actually presenting ourselves. I'm the so-called visionary PLM leader for life sciences. Hasse is the PLM owner and also the program manager. I think Robin, who spoke before us, talked about dinosaurs managing the check-in. I think the fan club here from GE, they always refer to me as the dinosaur internally. So I'm kind of the visionary dinosaur, but I don't know how that works together. That's me. Hasse, you can...
Yeah, and I'm the guy from the future then, at least in this presentation. And I'm a chemist by background, so I mean, for me, it's all about usability and not so much about the kind of IT stuff. I mean, I represent the user and what the users and business can get out from the PLM system.
Right, and time flies. We have a clock here, Hasse, and you know me, I talk too much. So the agenda here is a little bit about the company. We decided not to talk a lot about GE or healthcare, life sciences, more about the real story here that we want to talk about. So the PLM journey, and then Hasse will talk more about what's going on right now, the future and the program that we are running. So let's go right into it. We're very proud of GE and the kind of history and the kind of heritage. Since 1878, when Edison founded the company, we've been around. The GE overall, we've done a lot of major stuff in the last couple of years. Sold off NBC Universal, we sold off GE Money Bank, we sold off appliances, and we're trying to kind of consolidate into more industrial, being more industrial again. And the last couple of years, I think Jeff Immelt, before he left, he wanted us to become the world's leading digital industrial company. And since, is it 1st of August, we have a new CEO for GE, which is now John Flannery, who used to run healthcare. He's now the top guy for all of GE, so he's taken over since August. Going into healthcare quickly, the leading provider of outcome-based solutions. This is us in short, revenue 18 billion, or profit 3 billion, and so on. And I think life sciences, we are getting more and more important. Today we are close to 25% of the whole healthcare business. And I think we are, from a profit and cash standpoint, we are even more important than just the 25%. So we're really important to the overall GE business. Some interesting figures here about life sciences. In the core imaging business, we do contrast media. And as you can see here, 2 patients every second are being treated with diagnostic contrast media that comes from us. And on the medicines, you see on the bottom line here, 7 of the top 10 medicines are now biologics, and all of them is kind of dependent on us, which is nice in our model. I want to skip this one. I want to go straight into our PLM journey and back a little bit to, you probably have to be a Swede and an old Swede to really recognize Jerry Williams, but here he is. And back to Hasse's pick here of intro song. I think back in the days it was Pharmacia and it was Technia. Now this has kind of continued into more of a win-win partnership between GE Healthcare Life Sciences and Technia Transcat. And like all relationships, I think when the kind of initial infatuation is not there anymore, it goes into more kind of sustainable win-win partnership, right, Hasse? That's what you want to say, yeah. The journey here with CBS, you can see, started 97, and that's why we today actually celebrate the 20-year anniversary together with Technia. And that will be, I think it's a huge event going on. Hasse, you and Anneli are probably planning something. I guess it will be bigger than this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Bigger budget, better
I can't even
speakers.
see Anneli, but I clearly instructed her to make sure we plan this to be somewhere in between other big events like the Sweden playoff for World Cup and the Nobel Prize ceremony. So somewhere in early December, we will have this big celebration for the 20-year anniversary. So this one will be retired, this CBS instance that started 97, retired 21 years after it was born and launched. And we're now working on a project to implement the CBS functionality into the Magic platform. And this is the even longer and bigger journey that we had in the PLM area for life sciences. It actually started, as you can see, back in 1983 with an MS-DOS-based Dataflex system we call Partspeda. And we ran that actually for 20 years before we started up with Matrix 1 and eMatrix and Technia. That must have been a really good system back then. Anyway, throughout the journey here, we upgrade every 3 years, basically, to a new major platform. And we constantly try to enrich the capabilities on the platform. Hasse will talk about Magic 6.0, which is the Mandrake project later on. For those of you who are interested, Magic is not just kind of any name, it's actually an acronym for managing our global intellectual capital, if you are interested. And it's kind of based upon standard software, both from Dassault and Ovia, and also from Technia Transcat. And you see all these different centrals and TVC components. On top of this, unfortunately, we also have a number of customizations that are for good and bad in our platform. Main drivers for our kind of PLM investment is, of course, enable sustainable business growth is really important. It's kind of a foundation for that. Improve GE and customer productivity is important. Hasse will probably mention a little bit about Supplier Collaboration that goes under external partners. Drive innovation and ensure effective global collaboration is also key for us. It's a truly kind of global cross-functional system, so we touch more or less all the functions in the company are using the system, and we increased the number of users from roughly 1,500 to 3,000 in the last 5-6 years. And both kind of organic growth and also new users coming on from acquisitions. Last but not least, the priorities for the coming years here is to continue the standardization, to minimize customizations. We have a saying internally that goes a little bit like standardize where it makes sense and allow variation where it adds value, and we try to live by that as much as we can. Usability and performance, that's an area where actually Technia comes in big to help out, because Dassault provides a good foundation when it comes to Novia, when it comes to capabilities and so on, functionality, but they are not really, super good at the usability piece, and that's where we have added value, a lot of added value from Technia to bridge that gap. And we can actually see that very clear in healthcare, because we have a major instance that is used outside of life sciences, but in the other part of healthcare, and they are running kind of a clean Enovia environment, you could say. And we in the Magic system, we have Enovia plus the TVC layer. And from a user, when you do user surveys, for instance, it's very clear that the user are much more happy with the Magic, both from a performance and usability standpoint. So it clearly adds a lot of value. We want to continue to enrich the capabilities. We believe that fewer platforms and really standardize on those fewer enterprise platforms is important. So rather than having a lot of other systems, we would like to shut them down and bring those capabilities into the PLM platform instead. System vitality, we need to improve also. We need to get into more frequent upgrade cycles, and one way to do that would be to decrease the number of customization. That will help a lot. But we also need to do something that hasn't been really the case. We have talked about it for maybe 15 years, to get closer to both Dassault and Technia and their kind of product development, to really influence the product development roadmap so we can get our stuff into the standard releases rather than having an IT function internally that develop customization for us. So we need to shift that around a little bit, or quite a bit, I would say. Last but not least, the acquisitions, and some people in the fan club is very much involved in the acquisitions, and we will not stop doing acquisition, and that puts an extra challenge on us also to take care of that and run the integration projects in a good way. But it's important to bring those on as quickly as possible, and not trying to do kind of a hybrid model. When we have acquired a company, we either integrate them or we don't. We should stay away from trying to go in a hybrid model where we do some of it. But it's important, and it drives a lot of kind of complexity and challenges to add those acquisitions. And we do a lot of them, and we'll continue to do. Hasse.
Okay, so now it's me. I'm the guy from the future, as I said, so I will talk about the future, which from my perspective looks great. A lot of work, of course, but we will add a lot of new good functionality and business benefits. I mean, starting with making sure that we can offer kind of good product offerings in an effective way. And as Lars said, make sure we migrate, so we have fewer platforms. Supplier collaboration, and actually do that so we can create some delight for the users. I will kind of try to show you what delight can be, I mean, in that term. And then, of course, material compliance is of essence. I mean, we need to keep kind of up to date. We need to understand, we need to have material compliance for all our products, because otherwise we are not on the market any longer. And then to kind of keep current on the Enovia platform, important, and also if that enables us to reduce the number of customizations, that's even better. So the first one, the variant management implementation. Before I deep dive into that, I would like to describe this graph here. That's from Martin Schultz's book about internal and external efficiency. And here with the example of public transportation, the subway versus a taxi. Subway, of course, for the company that kind of provides this service is good because it's kind of high volume, a standard offering, but maybe not for the customer who wants to travel from point A to point B and lives far from the subway station. So the question then is, how can you create both a good value for the customer while being effective as a business and create value for the business and for the shareholders? So we see one way of being able to do this with the Enovia platform is with a variant management module. So we actually can create the modules that we need, and that can be combined then into good product offerings. So we can kind of offer just the number of modules that we need and reuse them as much as possible. And I think if you remember or listening to Leif Östing this morning about trucks, I mean, it was a comparison between Volvo trucks and Scania trucks, and apparently Scania is doing much better in terms of modularization. So how do we then get to modularization? Yeah, I mean, of course, the modules are the standard offering, and in order to actually be able to make the customers kind of get what they need, some piece or flavor or customization is in most cases needed, but that part should be quite small so that you can kind of rely on having the efficient volumes on the actual modules that you will reuse. And if you have not kind of grasped the concept yet, I will try to describe this in a scenario that you all recognize, at least if you live in an apartment or house and thinks your old kitchen stinks. Probably you then go to IKEA or the IKEA website and to the kitchen configurator, starting to build your kitchen. First you start with the room, and then you start to add the modules. And with the help of the configurator, then the configurator tells you, hey, you cannot combine these two because it will be too crowded, or you cannot hang that one on the wall. It needs to be there. So I mean, actually guiding the customer in to get the kitchen that is the best for the customer. And then the custom part here is, of course, I mean, like the benchtop surfaces and that kind of stuff. I think this is a good example. And if we then move into GE Healthcare and life sciences, I mean, how can we translate that? And this is, I think, a good example of that, which is called Flex Factory. It's actually where we kind of build and deliver complete factory to our customers based on customer needs, and not then I need 1,000 liters here and that big filter. It's more of, okay, I need to produce an antibody, a monoclonal antibody to be used in a drug, and I need a yield of 80%, or the process have a yield of 80%, and I need 50 grams each in each batch. So then we design that with a configurator tool, add all the automation, build the factory, and more or less install it, make sure it works properly, hand over the key. And we do that then using just kind of a few standard modules, add the automation, and can then kind of have a very wide design space of actually kind of providing a good solution for our customers. So I will now jump to a complete different subject. So if you bear with me here, this is a small enterprise in our big business that is kind of engineered to order, I could call it. It's kind of a customer walks up to us and say, hey, I do not find what I need in your kind of standard catalog. We have this process, I need to fit this in, I need these materials, I need these kind of fittings. Hey, okay, we build that. The CBS business say. And they are today on a very old platform, enterprise platform, very, very customized. That is, as you understand, out of support, and also quite ineffective because different teams have been kind of driving their own customization within the platform. So we believe that by doing this shift into moving this user base, the data that needs to be moved to Magic, we can actually then benefit from having standardized process, standardized ways of working, and kind of have fewer platforms. But of course, there are challenges. I mean, all of you who works with people that have other jobs besides work in your projects, so just to get hold of them, and then what do you think the CBS users say the first time you approach them and say, hey, we're going to replace your customized system with the Magic system? They say, never, this will never work. So that's a challenge. And as I said, this user community has been very, very spoiled. I mean, everything they have asked for has been kind of customized in the system. So, I mean, just to emphasize, I mean, we would like to retire this system, move users and data. And the processes that we will support then is kind of running the projects for this system, all the way from the quotation to actually designing, production, and then the after-sales support, since we need to kind of make sure that these installations works for many, many years. So, I mean, first of all, we here need to understand what do users really do, and not just how it's done today. So, I mean, some reverse engineering here and actually finding the user stories for the entire end-to-end process, and work very close to the users here, because I mean we need to get user acceptance. We need to understand that this is something that users kind of will be able to use and will still be able to have a good speed in the projects, because I mean this is customer kind of driven projects with very short lead times. So I mean work very agile, work in sprint releases, and kind of try to do this transfer as smooth as possible. And I will tell you in the last slide, I mean, what the users feel now about doing this shift. When we have been working with the users, having workshop with the users have been testing, providing feedback, testing again, providing more feedback. But before that, I will talk a little bit about delightful supplier collaboration. I mean, supplier collaboration can come in many flavors, but here, at least for startup, we would like to work with a request for quote process, just like AutoLeave described yesterday morning, because here we kind of do not have any good tools at all. It's emails. Sharing data is painful because a lot of data is kind of very many gigabytes. So I mean, just to upload it, download it takes a lot of time, and then to make sure that it's the right version, have all the changes being communicated and all that kind of important details. So what we believe here is if we can put this in place with a easy-to-use supplier portal, we actually can get a much more improved collaboration with our suppliers. So we can speed up and improve the quality of the RFQ process, and we make it simple to actually share data and allow the suppliers to kind of fetch the data from our PLM database for the parts that they actually own. And then, I mean, as this evolves, we also see, hey, we can replace other system or functionality in other system and bring that into the PLM system, so we kind of enrich the PLM system with more data that can be kind of used from more users. But of course here, I mean, we're talking about suppliers, that's external users that we cannot spend too much time in kind of training or supporting. It needs to be easy. It needs to be easy to do right. And then of course also the kind of risk, the cybersecurity, or what you would call it, I mean, exposing PLM data from the database directly to the web and to the suppliers. And the delight, what is then the delight here? Yeah, as I said, delight can come in many flavors, and here it's on a grayscale to the left. But what I would like you to kind of understand here is, to the left, you have a view of a prototype portal that we built together with Technia, where we have the RFQ process, and we have parts, and we have the kind of standards that you as a supplier need to fulfill. We also have kind of a not completely finalized yet, but also functionality for suppliers to communicate changes to us as customer. And to the right there on this grayscale screenshot, you have just one click away from actually downloading the file package for your part. So you actually can get kind of the complete bill of material. And I think that's kind of delightful. One click, you get what you need. To the right, it's actually training material for suppliers, for the supplier portal that has been put in place in the other part of OG Healthcare, which is the Innovi instance as Lars told you about. And this is slide 1 of 3, how you as a supplier need to navigate to get the information that you can get in one click with the Helium portal. I mean, to me, that's not really delight. Okay, next subject, material compliance. Talked about it here in the beginning that, I mean, we need to make sure that we can be kind of compliant for our products to all regulations in all regions. I need to understand regulations, need to understand what products do they apply to, etc. I see I'm running out of time, but I hope that you can spend some...
Change color.
Yeah, change color with me. But I mean, here we talk about using the module then for material compliance, that I know you can get more and better information from Petter, that is here somewhere in the audience, from Technia. But I will just show you very briefly, I mean, what we believe this will bring. I mean, in terms of managing the end-to-end process when it comes to material compliance. I mean, the first part is to actually understand the compliance regulations and the definitions, and then, okay, how do they apply to our products? And then make sure that we kind of integrate that in our supply chain with our suppliers, use the supplier portal to get the full material declarations, and then do the analysis so we understand that, okay, this product, we can ship this, and then do the reporting and kind of other stuff that's needed, and to be able to have a good overview so we can kind of have this under control with a minimum effort, and also to have the information available for everybody so that we can reuse the parts that are compliant. Because, I mean, that's the purpose of this also, as I see it. And then, last but not least, Innovia upgrade. I mean, it's something that we need to do. It's not always easy to do because of the many customizations. It's expensive to do, so it's a bit difficult to justify it in many times. We often need to package it with kind of other activities so we can kind of justify to run a project. But I mean, we have high hopes now for moving from 2014X to 2018X, which is kind of what we aim for, in able to get kind of new improved functionality, reduce the number of customizations, and possibly also challenge Technia a bit on the TVC components. But that we'll see. So I mean, as I said, I've been talking about what we plan to do. So will we really do this, or when will we do this? So here are the answer to that. The first piece here with variant management, we launched that in July this summer. So we actually could start use it. So we then, now in November, can have a follow-up release with the backlog and also the kind of issues we saw or other things that we kind of just didn't knew we needed at the same time. And then also for the CBS, the functionality piece, I mean, as I said, moving CBS users to the Magic system, using the kind of standard functionality, but of course build the functionality that's needed for the very specific CBS processes. And at the end of the day, we discovered that there were only not a couple, but quite few new stuff that needed to be built. The majority of the processes could be done with standard processes. And actually now, you remember I said that CBS users were a bit reluctant. This will never go. We have the best system in the world, etc. Now they say, hey, can we start using this? Although the data is not transferred, because we believe that this is much better. It will save a lot of time. So I mean, working with the users, understand the user needs, listen to the users, I mean, have a huge impact on actually getting the users to like. Maybe not delight, but at least like it. And that release, we will kind of have a combined release with variant management. So we kind of add the stuff that we missed out or didn't knew that we needed. And then the data migration, kind of from 20 years of data needs to be migrated, and that's a huge effort. The biggest data migration we have done ever. It's a challenge, but that we plan to finalize then in February, where we just then have released kind of additional functionality for the CBS functionality. Supplier Collaboration, we then plan to start when we actually have some energy to do it, because right now we are kind of exhausted of the VCC and variant management and CBS. And all the upgrade to then be combined with Supplier Collaboration, because we plan at least to build Supplier Collaboration and the supplier processes on 2018X. And then last but not least, material compliance, and what I haven't mentioned but we see is essential is to make sure that we also can integrate our CAD systems to the PLM system. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lars and Hans. Very interesting. I think a lot of people are interested in what you say, and you're staying, of course, over lunch here, so you're available. If you have any questions now, please raise your hands. We have some time for that. I was just curious, it seems like a big part of your success here with the PLM is that you have the same partner, the same systems for many years. Do you feel that these upgrades are kind of makes a profit less than they could be, since they're quite big projects to do that internally in the organization?
What should we say, Lars? I mean, I can say it like this. It should be easier to do upgrades. It should be cheaper, less complex. I mean, if to be honest, I mean, the last upgrade, we didn't gain much in functionality. I mean, the new and improved functionality that we added as part of that upgrade was that we implemented TVC in more places. But for example, we couldn't leverage on the change management process because that was not, wouldn't fly at all.
Thank you very much for sharing this. You're so open with your information too about your project. Thank you very much.